7 investigators have uncovered new information tonight about the cost of police misconduct in Detroit.
Yeah, we touched on this yesterday, but this afternoon we have the full story for you. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars shelled out by taxpayers because officers were accused of crossing the line.
Here's 7 investigator Ross Jones.
They are officers who may have gone too far, accused of wrongful arrest, assault and battery, even causing death.
And it costs the city a lot of money. The city can't afford it.
And for attorneys like Dan Romano, they have led to huge cash payouts, judgments or settlements that kept climbing while the city lurched towards bankruptcy. Since 2008, more than 300 people have been awarded money after alleging police misconduct, with payments varying in size from as little as $500 to several million.
What I've learned from doing this for 20 years is that they seem to look at the citizens of Detroit not as the people they serve, but as a nuisance.
Many of the cases allege gross negligence, like in September 2010 when officers were investigating a case here on Fairport Street. Cops encountered 2 dogs and called animal control employee Robert Cole for help, but what happened next cost you a small fortune. According to a lawsuit, both officers on the scene opened fire, aiming for the dogs, but hitting Cole twice. An arbitrator ruled that the city owed him more than $500,000. The same year, Detroit police encountered Craig Graves near the intersection of Mount Elliott and Sylvester. While placing him under arrest for drug possession, a Detroit officer allegedly shot him in the back while he laid face down on the ground. Graves sued. The city settled for $250,000. And outside his home on Robinwood Street, Jason Vereen was handcuffed and placed into a squad car by police when an officer suspected he was trespassing. He wasn't. But while Vereen was handcuffed, an officer allegedly punched him in the head, struck him with a flashlight, then accused him of disorderly conduct. He was found not guilty by a judge, then sued police. $240,000 later, the city settled the case. All told, since 2008, city officials tell us that lawsuits against police have cost taxpayers nearly $27 million. That's much higher than what other similarly sized cities have paid out. Over a 10-year period in Denver, the city shelled out $13 million. In Minneapolis, police misconduct cost taxpayers only $21 million.
But the disparity is even bigger than that. That's because we uncovered 6- and 7-figure settlements that the city paid out but didn't provide to us. They later admitted they should have.
This is not accurate at all.
In fact, attorney Dan Romano says that about a half dozen payouts from cases he filed are listed nowhere. Like the case of Amari Dixon. In 2008, an off-duty Detroit police officer got into an argument with Dixon while the two were sitting at a stoplight. The officer said Dixon pointed a gun at him, leading him to open fire, hitting Dixon 4 times in the back, killing him. But a witness to the crime said Dixon never pointed a gun at all. The cop who pulled the trigger was never charged criminally, but when he was sued by Dixon's family, the city paid out $1.5 million to make the lawsuit go away. When asked about that case, a city lawyer acknowledged that their records were incomplete, and that reported $27 million in payouts, it's actually even higher. It is likely to climb again very soon. Attorney Dan Romano says he has dozens of cases pending against the city right now.
It's good for my business. It's bad for the city of Detroit.
We asked to speak with Mayor Mike Duggan and Police Chief James Craig about the total payouts, but neither got back to us. We should point out that the vast majority of these settlements were paid out before both men took office. I'm Ross Jones, 7 Action News.
Ross, thank you. The city responded to our investigation saying that since a federal monitor began overseeing the police department in 2003, the city has drastically reduced the number of fatal shootings, deaths in holding cells, and complaints against officers.
And in a statement, the city's Corporation Council said, in part, we are incredibly proud of the improvements that have been made by the Detroit Police Department to become a model of constitutional policing in America.
As he ruled to dissolve the federal consent decrees that were over DPS for 11 years, Judge Avern Cohn praised DPD for its efforts to improve its policies and practices.
Joining us now from our downtown studio is Linda Bernard, attorney to the Detroit Board of Police Commissioners, who has oversight over the Detroit Police Department. Linda, what is your reaction to the amount of money the city paid out during that time?
Well, first of all, I think you have to look at it relatively. I mean, you have to, when you settle a lawsuit, it's really because of the threat that exists with respect to what, in some instances, are runaway juries. So the settlements themselves don't necessarily mean that the case was extremely meritorious, but it's in many instances, it's just a business decision.
So it's not an admission
because of the
guilt,
defense
you're
costs.
saying? Because it costs a lot of money. I said it's not an admission of guilt, you're saying. It just costs a lot of money for the city to defend themselves against a lawsuit, and it may be the better option to just settle?
It costs not only a lot of money to defend it. I mean, as I said, in the end, you're transferring the authority to 12 good men and women of this community who may see the facts totally different than you see it as a police officer or as the defender of the police department. So rather than take that risk of what we see and what we typically call runaway juries, is you will settle the case in-house.
And Linda, we don't know the full value of these lawsuits yet. Is that concerning at all?
Yeah, I think it is a concern about the value of the lawsuits in terms of the actual payouts. And the Detroit Police Commission is attempting to get some additional information on this issue as well. Not only have they asked for information on the payouts, they've also asked for information on the amount of outside attorney's fees the city pays to defend these matters, as well as the cost of the unit within the law department that in fact handles these matters. There are a lot of different cost factors that are involved in litigation. And when you really want to take a look at it, you want to look at the total picture.
Linda,
and that's what the commission is trying to do.
The city told us that there has been major improvements to the department since federal oversight began. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, there's no question about it. The data from our investigators and the data that the commission has from the department indicates that the complaints are down, particularly the civilian complaints, as well as those complaints that involve criminal conduct.
Still lots of questions there. Obviously, the relationship is a huge part, making sure that this community is tied in with the police. Linda Bernard, attorney to the Detroit Board of Police Commissioners. Linda, thank you for your time.
It's important for James
You're
Craig.
very welcome. Thank you.